Big ups.
Big love and
What
respect.
up? What up?
Much love, everybody. How's my audio?
Sounds good.
Okay, very nice.
What do you think, chat? Who are we sounding okay? Coming through? Good to see everyone.
We lost a soldier on the way to the big broadcast tonight. Our brother Chris had to sit this one out. So big love and respect, Chris. I know you'll catch it on the replay.
Brother Chris, wish you were here, man. We'll have to do it without you. I wanted to talk about some Steiner stuff too, man. It'd be good if he was here.
Yeah, yes. Kind of picking up a little bit on that, the 12 different perspectives graphic that we pulled up.
Yeah. So, I just think it'd be a good exercise to go through and see the worldviews, because I feel like I've been kind of purposely reluctant to, look at what all the isms mean, like realism, idealism, phenomenalism, sensualism, all these isms that are like philosophical worldviews, just because I don't feel like it's that much of a point, to for a world. Like, I don't need a title to my worldview. And then if you identify as one, it's like almost putting yourself in a box.
A little bit.
So,
Yeah. So Dostoevsky has a book called Demons, and I have not gotten all the way through. It's a drag on purpose. The beginning is an intentional, like an initiation process. And most people who say they haven't read, don't like the book, it's because they didn't get to the juicy parts, because apparently the end is where all the good stuff's at. But in studying the history of the book and its impact, I learned that he is talking about different isms, and that each character in the book could be construed as an ism of his time. And then people will also say that this train of isms, who are the characters in the book called demons, that these are inevitabilities of a culture that are basically these are the different ways that atheism tries to wiggle and move without landing in the purview of the church. Basically, that was kind of the thing.
oh my God, that's spot on what I was thinking, because kind of starting with Descartes is when they really started to categorize, the Descartes' rationalism, and then that kind of breeded all these other isms, and that's totally it. It was like reason and logic. How can the church, be against reason and logic, right?
Right. Yes. Totally. And uh there are a lot of sayings from, I think this one is from the Protestant Reformation, where every man will become their own church, or some have said it that every man will become their own priest or their
Mm.
own minister. And so, and that is an understatement in this day and age of isms. People find out that you're like, oh, you're into Tycho Brahe. Well, let's talk about it in that context. So yeah, so many, it's a deluge of isms. And
So
Rasta sings about that too. The isms bring the schisms.
yeah, totally. So yeah, I've been like purposely reluctant to, search these out, see what they all mean, see which one I agree with or whatever. I just don't see much fruit in that. But where I do see it is coming from we talked a couple last time I was on here about Steiner's this one lecture where he talks about 12 equally justified worldviews. And so where I think the fruit is, or why I think it'd be a fun little exercise, is to look at these different isms and um, kind of sit with it for a minute and see if you can kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, convince yourself of it. Be like, see where it's coming from. And I think there, because, the truth is probably like right in the middle, or, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit, a little bit of everything. And so I think that'd be just a fun exercise to kind of mesh together, see what the opposites are. Um, and then also too, I'm fascinated too by the history of it, like, which I haven't really researched that much and probably won't, but it's just the little bit I know from, the Descartes to the Kant. Well, first you got to go back to the Plato, then the Aristotle's empiricism, and then you got the Descartes, the Kant, the Motley Crue, Bacon and Hobbes and them, So all these isms you can see, and then you get into, the what's the guy's name that we like? Process reality. Who's that? Whitehead.
Yep.
Whitehead and such,
A&W.
Nietzsche, and all that. It's like how's nihilism how can nihilism be a good thing? And it's like, actually, there's liberation in nihilism. But it's like all of these just don't take it too far, take a little bit from each of it, and that's it.
Big time, big time. Yeah. The Kantian imperative. So often I love thinking of, Immanuel Kant's Kantian imperative is kind of like the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. But it's tweaked just so sophisticated to be more about uh behave as a society as you would expect other societies to behave. So it's like the golden rule, but somehow imposed onto the populace around you. And that, I think, very much is how you, it's so simple, and he used such complex words to bestow it onto us. But that's, I think, how the public operates. And then I think of Machiavelli as the complete subversion of all of the Kantian imperative, which is performed in the private. And so for so many years, I think everybody has had that golden rule, altruism in the public. But even if you didn't read Machiavelli, the spirit of that of that difference of keep your keep your scheming in the private side. It's even if you didn't read Machiavelli, it's still kind of true. So yeah, I think of them as kind of a Joaquin and a Boaz of philosophy and politics.
Yeah, and I like looking at these dates too, just to like,
Oh right.
that's what I'm talking about. And this will be, I got no rush on this project, but I think it's worthwhile to kind of just, once you start, dabbling in philosophy a little bit and just kind of looking at the history, knowing like, okay, so you talked about Machiavelli, and you also said you mentioned Kant in there. Well, Machiavelli lived here, the wiki 1469 1572. Kant was way later. Kant was 1724 to 1804. Although I get what you're saying, you're just talking about, thought
Yeah.
or whatever. But
Mhm.
and then you got Descartes. Okay, Machiavelli died 1527. Descartes was born 1596. So 1596 to 1650. And I
Yes,
think that's just fun to kind of put these guys on a little timeline, and you could see the evolution.
that
And
is so
and
true.
really the pivotal moment here, in my opinion, I'm sure many others, is Descartes, because that period right there, 1596 and 1950, that is the Descartes, that's the John Dee, that's the KJ 1611, KJV, that's all that stuff.
Yeah, man. Are you looking at a timeline graphic?
No, I just looked
Okay.
up Machiavelli and Descartes.
Okay.
I actually did put together a little timeline before. I'll see if
I
I could dig it up. I did do this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, you reminded me.
I highly recommend this endeavor for everybody because I've actually lost my timeline of philosophers that I was actually filling it in for
Dude, I
myself.
think I have one.
Yeah, I was actually finding all the missing pieces to the timeline of philosophy. It was really well organized too. It kind of had like analytics on one side and continental on the other side, somewhat of a divide there. And yes, I so recommend people have a visual uh, timeline to actually see who was a peer to who and who's
Mhm.
borrowing from the other. I think that's probably my largest um, regret from my education was that the timeline was never consistent. It was always jumping around all through the education process. They're just chopping you in and out of time backwards and forwards so much that you have to work all over again to get a good timeline once you graduate.
Man, it's gonna take me a minute to find it, but it's like I know I did it, and I feel like I even shared it with you before. I was putting together, it was just a notepad, so it was very, not
Rough.
aesthetically pleasing, and it didn't have too much information, but it did
Mhm.
have, because I did like I basically have been saying for a while that I don't really enjoy reading philosophy that is newer than like 16th 17th century, like basically right around when Descartes starts writing. From then on, the philosophy it's so different than reading the ancients, the ancient Greeks and all that stuff. It's so long-winded and so just rational. it's kind of boring.
You know, Descartes, I always will love to point out that he is probably the most publicly accepted and under identified Gnostics because of his whole theory that what if the God, even God is tricking me? Even the senses that I'm taking in, what if that's actually a prankster God? So his doubt, his skepticism went to even the degree that he was kind of playing into the Aldebaoth and all the Gnostic narrative.
Right. And so yeah, that's interesting you say that, because that's how he got to the, I don't know the fancy way to say it in Latin, but the I am that I am, is because that's how he did it, by this like skepticism and this doubting, that he's like, okay, well, the only, or I think, therefore I am. So
Right.
the skepticism and doubting, he's like, oh, I could doubt all this stuff, but then the one thing I can't doubt is that I'm thinking about doubting. So it's like, good job.
Yeah,
Yeah, good job.
totally.
Okay.
And another thing with Descartes is, he was very much experimenting with drugs, hallucinogenics, of various sorts. Everybody should check out One on One, and Paranoid American did a breakdown on some of the fan fiction of his psychedelic adventures. Um, but he also his biography is really, I don't know, it it packs onto Ariga, the injured charioteer constellation, in a million different ways. But Descartes, his name in Portuguese is Jeter, and even in French, his name means to discard or to throw away, just like Erichthonius in his mythology. He's born deformed, so he's uh, unwanted as a child. Yeah, fascinating how the more I look at Descartes and his mythological correspondence to Ariga, the injured charioteer, start to ask myself if Descartes is even real.
You really? That's funny.
But regardless of whether he's real or not, I think it's even more fascinating to see that he's made out of mythology. It's, yeah, he just seems to be, yeah, he's made out of some essential mythological bits and pieces. Just say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and so I wonder, back then, how hard would it be to make up this dude, like, just think of Mark Twain, like, that's his, like, pen name. You know, how hard would it be to make a guy that doesn't exist and you just write, the
Right.
title, like, Shakespeare's the obvious one, right? That,
Yes.
people say, "Oh, there wasn't a Shakespeare, it was whoever, Edward de Vere, the Bacon ones," and it's like, I feel like back then, it wouldn't be that hard because
Mhm.
you're just doing the writing, and as long as you, within your little guild, get the same person to write, and then someone dies, maybe you just did they do open caskets back then? I don't know. I just don't think it'd be that hard,
Yeah.
to make a guy up. I don't think that's too far-fetched.
Yeah. Or to capture their work and put it to your ends. I just learned about the theory that Howard Hughes was actually kidnapped, and the last 20 years of the life of the man that we know as Howard Hughes, he was probably drugged up on some island in the Mediterranean, and a bunch of people were taking his empire and driving it for him. Uh,
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah, it's a super wild weave. I think it's going to unpack in the upcoming years in fascinating ways. But
Y Yeah, he had his hands in a lot of stuff, and that was a name I wasn't, familiar with till recently.
yeah, yeah.
Those Mormons. Yeah, I wish I could find my list, but I can't, so I think I'm gonna give up. Um, I know my philosopher history list. I'll find it sometime. But, I know, so you titled this episode "Defy Cult Measures,"
Yeah,
and
buddy.
your graphic's pretty interesting here. Of
Thank you.
course, the Muppets, which Zeralath is intimately familiar with. What are you
Yes.
thinking with the cults? Because I do have, a little bit of weave on that with the kind of the history of the word cult,
Yeah, yeah. I want to hear
which is
what.
kind of fun.
Yep. Well, I think that we're going to, I guess let me frame it this way. Yes. The German folk movement was kind of tapping into the mysticism of the land and the ancestors, and a collecting of the stories of a nation uh, that was socially harnessed and put to nefarious use in the lifetime of the German folk movement. And one example of this is like, in Brothers Grimm in the originals, the wolf always wins, and there's never some dude to come and save the day. There's never a woodsman or a random bystander to come and kill the wolf for you. The wolf won every time in the original Brothers Grimm. And when these stories come to America, we just add on this little thing, this comfort blanket at the end of the story. So the wolf just it's it doesn't get away at the end of our childhood associations. However, in Germany, he always got away. Well, it turns out the word Adolf means head wolf. And so when Adolf came and took the stage, he was a symbol of a nemesis for all the childhood culture of the people. And so I see right now we're having almost like what happened with the hippies, where everybody's going back to earth, everybody's going to the compound, and growing your home grown in the backyard. But then the Manson family parallels the hippies, pops off with these headlines. Next thing you know, people don't even use the word hippie to describe something that was peace loving, uh, salt of the earth kind of folks again. So I see that kind of coming back around right now. And just like with the Mansons, I think a lot of these cults are manufactured and might have been even seeded into our consciousness through film. So yeah, I'll bring up some graphics on that, but that's kind of the cult thing that I want to bring forward, because I think a lot of these psyops that are going to be unpacked upon us can actually be undermined if we identify how they were seeded into our minds through cinema.
Speaking of, how's the Pope? How's Pope Francis? Did he pop?
As of right now, I don't have to buy everybody a round of drinks, which but a lot of people are probably glad, because it would have been absent. But who knows?
And
We got a few hours.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, are we going off Rome time? I think it's already past midnight, so I think you're safe. I think you're safe. But
I like that way of gambling, where if it doesn't happen, where if I'm wrong, then I'm relieved of my obligation. I think that's the
right,
best way.
right. So check this out. I watched you shared a Occult Rejects. They did a show on the Scythian death cult that
Yeah,
I
buddy.
watched.
Okay.
And I don't know how much I remember of it, but I wanted to bring up let me share my screen. The history of the word cult, and which some of you guys may have seen this before, but let's go to it's cult leader. But cult's the same. So if you guys have ever a cool little tool is Google Ngrams, where you can so it's Google Ngram, just the word or the letter Ngram viewer, and you could search in here things like cult, and it shows the rise. Now this search is a corpus of all Google's scanned in OCR text. And so you can use this to I think it's just cool, another tool to see the words. So, back in the day, they would, you read books from, 1800s or whatever. They would talk about the cult of Mithras, or, these cults, which is just like a religious sect is basically all that meant. And then one thing I did share with you is let me pull this up real quick. The have you ever heard of this before? The Great Anti-Cult Scare, 1935 to 1945.
Whoa, do tell.
Yeah, so apparently this has happened before, because we know that there was this cult scare with, Manson and the hippies and all, to kind of scare everyone in that world, right? And the what's his name, Jim Jones, and stuff like that. But this was a little bit earlier to it. Oh, look at that. Surviving sex of Morgan polygamists. That just caught my eye.
They never
But
die, they just multiply.
right. But anyway, there is this I don't know, apparently a bunch of papers and stuff were writing about a cult scare between this time here. And so that's what this does too. If newspapers are OCR'd and indexed, it will pull up, the frequency of use. But you could see here how it climbs up. Now, another interesting thing is you could do, like 2 words. So this would just be cult leader. And you could see how cult leader really jumps up 1945 on. And my problem with I don't like these words like cult and conspiracy theory or conspiracy, because that they're basically like newspeak, got a very Orwellian flair to them, where they don't mean what they mean anymore. Because cult, there's nothing inherently bad about a cult. There's nothing inherently wrong about a conspiracy theory or whatever, So that's one thing. But you could see why I bring this up is because you could see a connection. There looks to be similar. Let me zoom in here on conspiracy theory. But you could see that this conspiracy theory and cult words look similar in their growth when you look at the timeline in the history. This is very zoomed out. This one's a little bit more zoomed in, but you could see around 1940, 1945 is when they both jump up, and then they jump up more significantly in the 70s to modern. So like there's this correlation between the rise of these two terms and ideas. And for what that's worth, it's, if anything, it's something to think about. And I think it's always better for us to get back on track of being more what's the word, impeccable with our words and how we use them and what we're saying.
Yeah.
To call someone a cult or call something a cult, I don't think it is correct, because a cult isn't necessarily bad, even though we have this connotation today and how the word is used that it is a bad thing.
Right.
You feel me?
Oh man, so much. And it is so easy for a bunch of people who share a common good guy or bad guy to slip into that onto that, over that precipice where they, it's oftentimes, it's the agenda of the leadership gets kind of nefarious or um whatever, steered astray from
Mm-hmm.
what people expected. Yeah. And, but I think that we've also gone through a process, a very socially engineered process with the lockdowns, because even I myself, had to look around to find out what society I wanted to participate in. Um, to the extent that I even joined a private membership association. And because I was in this private membership association, I was able to help people with paperwork so they don't have to take the poke, you know? So, uh, uh, in the strangest way, without even intending to, while as in the conspiracy uh, thinking space, I would never have thought of the fact that I needed to join a secret society just to protect myself and my loved ones. You know what I mean? And it
I
wasn't
think
until after I'd already done. Oh,
you froze.
did I glitch out? Am I better?
Yeah, you said you wouldn't even
Okay.
think you would need to join a private
Okay. Yeah.
association. Then you come
Yeah.
out.
I never would have thought that that was going to be required in my life, but I had already done it when it dawned on me after the fact that, oh, yeah, we all kind of needed secret societies of some sort. And some cliques have really taken off and launched with, new personalities with unifying worldviews that are really big. And so, yeah, I think the people are going to be broad brushing the term cult a lot. I think they have been and will be in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the go-to derogatory term for a group of people with shared interests and possibly a shared goal. You know, you call them a cult.
Right. And it's kind of the stereotypical accusation from somebody who wasn't allowed in.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be with you guys. You're clearly a cult.
clearly are a cult.
But
And there's that little bit of jealousy, and then, maybe not being in, but then also too, it's like cult has people think that someone's being taken advantage of. That usually comes into play with the cult idea. And so again, that's like a third party person thinking that, just looking on other people and judging that, like, oh, those people are being taken advantage of by those people. But it's like, normally they don't uh really have that much info. It's like, I bet you've never really even talked to any of those people. And so wouldn't it be on them to be the ones who feel as if they're being taken advantage of or not? So you're like sitting
yes,
outside judging from the outside, but that's usually a thing with cults too, is that someone's being, you know, had over
manipulated.
in some
Yeah.
sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually listened to a woman's channel. Her daughter was taken up by a cult. And so she does a lot of presentations on coercive manipulation. And it's so fascinating. When I was in high school, I did what I thought was a risky project, uh, proving how the entire formula for cult behavior and indoctrination is best exemplified by the military.
Oh, totally.
It,
100%. Yes.
yeah,
And there's cults that are serious cults that no one calls cults.
yeah, that's so true. That's so well said.
It's so
That's
selective and weird like that. That's
yeah,
why that's why I just don't like that word. Just don't,
yeah.
or it shouldn't be a bad thing when you say a cult.
Right. Yes. There's so much presumption and baggage comes on. I want to mention to everybody, I actually noticed right now over on the Occult Rejects, they're doing another presentation on the Zizians.
Oh, are
And
they?
yeah, yeah. Because it sounds like there is a great amount to unpack already. So yeah, I'm looking forward to following up on what they got. But I'm going to do a little presentation through the Slick Dissident archives.
Heck
Uh,
yeah, let's go.
let's see. Brief tunnel vision effect, y'all. Bear with us. Um, so yeah, some of my fun with the Muppet Project. Oh no, before I forget, we've been talking about cults this whole time. there are lots of horses in the sky. There's lots of other celestial horses, plenty of them. But I just want to point to Monoceros. Monoceros is a cult. It's a unicorn up in the sky, and it is inside of the winter triangle. If you think of Orion as Santa Claus, there's a big old triangle over his shoulder, and inside of that is the Monoceros, and inside of Monoceros there's a Christmas tree nebula. But this arrangement of constellations might also be exemplified in the map that they give us of the realm, in which case I think it's kind of fun to think of the UK as the grand central hub of the cult, C-O-L-T, of personality. That's there's probably a lot to that.
That's so interesting too. That you say that cult is a horse.
And yeah, and look at how this jackrabbit. See how it fits into the negative space of the Irish Sea, and even its antlers kind of look like the broken up islands. It almost looks like the jackrabbit should have a unicorn horn right here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What is jackalope? It's a jackalope. Okay, so let me bring. I think a lot of people have been following the Slick Dissident fun with the Muppets, and ever since I've discovered the fun with the Muppets, I've been just kind of doing some experimental. Oh, hold on, some thought experiments. Hold on, let me see. Let me scroll to the top. Yeah, and oh, here, let me share this just in case anybody hasn't seen. This is kind of my grand. This is my grand design, corresponding the tarot cards to the Muppets to actual people on the world stage right now. Is it's been really fun. It's been really fun. But here we go. Recently I sent a couple new ideas over to our buddy Zaralath, and Zaralath might join us later, folks. He's doing his live stream, and he might have the endurance to come join us. Let's go. 1 second. I've gone into La La Land. Oh yeah, we're way off in La La Land.
All right, happens, dude. I meant to ask you, did you see any of the clips last night?
I did. I just a little, maybe for 15 or so minutes. I watched it turned red, and then I came inside and went to sleep.
Yeah, very cool.
Did you get some?
I didn't see it, man. I set my alarm and it went off, and I was like, I didn't get up. It rained all day. I figured it might be cloudy, but I should have went and saw it, but I didn't. But I did have some crazy ass dreams.
Really?
Yeah, I had some wild dreams last night.
Let's see. All right. Did you leave your body? Were you doing your Joe Roop techniques?
No out of body. It was a normal dream that I didn't know I was dreaming. But it was weird as shit. Like, I totally should have been like, that's too weird to be real. One of those dreams, but totally thought it was real.
Okay, here we go. So to bring people back up to speed, we've decided that Gonzo is totally Tucker Carlson. There's so much more to this. I just found out about Carlson's family lineage going back to the Pilgrim Society and some other Gonzos in history. So the night after I tell this to Zaralath, Tucker goes on with freaking what's this guy's name? Sam Bankman-Fried. And essentially, Sam Bankman-Fried did that big banking scheme, high fraud, high banking fraud. So this is Freed in jail with his ratty hair, uh, uh, in a position to rat out a lot of people. And Tucker had him on for a streamed interview the day after we made the correspondence between Tucker and Gonzo here. And then I went back. I'm watching Kill Bill because I think that the Kill Bill is laying out the protocols for a lot of the predictive programming that is the Zizian death cult. And the main heroine, Uma Thurman, whose name is basically almost Urim and Thummim, which is the artifact of gambling. It's the premier artifact of betting on fate. Well, she's obsessed with rationality. It is mercy, compassion, and forgiveness that I lack, not rationality. Well, Sam Bankman-Fried, he banked an investment adventure in the CFAR, the Center for Applied Rationality. So yeah, a lot of the Sizian bullshit was totally preceded by the Kill Bill agenda. And here is Bill Gates, who is very much Scooter from the Muppets. Are you feeling this one, PK?
See, I don't know that much about Muppets.
Yeah, I remember you weren't a Muppet.
Yeah, or I would.
Yeah. Well, the reason this really hits home, and it's so subtle. It's so subtle. I have to kind of, I don't know. I have to admire my enemy a little, because Scooter was obsessed with the schedule. That was pretty much his main job throughout all of the films. He's always got a clipboard. He's always keeping the schedule, and he actually works for Miss Piggy. He's actually that's part of his uppity personality. Is he's got to keep Miss Piggy looking good, or else he gets loses his job. So turns out that Scooter is a Billiken. He is symbolically representing the Billiken of the Muppets. And so yeah, this has been a discovery I've made, and I'm quite sure that the Kill Bill is provocation protocols because they're hoping people will go into vigilante mode, right? And this is you've seen Kill Bill, right, PK? At least.
Yeah, I've seen Kill Bill. Definitely need a rewatch, but yeah, I've seen it probably more than once.
Okay, right on, right on. Well, the Zizian death cult is stacking up to basically be the all-star cast of the Viper Assassination Death Squad from Wonton Quarantino's film. And that's really far out. That is super far out. But if you actually look into the research and the rationality that these assassins are living by, it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating. Let's see. Okay. So here is this is my assessment of the main characters on the stage at large today. I think Ralph from the Muppets is Bill looks alikes Jonestown and Jonestown King Lord of Hoax Hicks. I think Ralph's voice was designed to have us attached to. I think a lot of people's associative principles are harmonized to this dog from the Muppets and has transferred over to Bill Hicks. Do you even recognize the dog's voice in your mind, PK? Can you hear his voice?
No.
It has no traction in your psyche.
It's that bad.
That's amazing. It doesn't even attach. Well,
it doesn't even register.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, that really is amazing because if you knew the dog's voice, you would be more impressed. You would be way more impressed. The dog's voice is totally iconic, just like Bill Hicks, Alex Jones here. Totally iconic. Oh, and the dog is always playing on the piano with these candlesticks. That's another strange trope. Like even in different settings, they always have to have his chandelier, his candelabra, his menorah. And a lot of people will tell you Bill Hicks doesn't criticize the menorah people very much. So here's Bill Clinton is totally the saxophone dude from the Muppets. That dude was awesome. Yeah, and they even put Bill Clinton in his iconic blue dress. Very, very same color blue as the guy's hair. And here's one of my favorites. This is Gavin Newsom is what's this guy's name? I forget his name. Not Gonzo.
I don't know.
Yeah, you
Maybe
don't do
someone chat knows.
you don't know the Muppets.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the guy. That's
No,
Gavin Newsom.
right. Newsom is why am I blanking? I'm totally blanking on this guy's name. But I think that's actually kind of funny because Grover, that's his name. Because Grover was like a super clumsy superhero. And if you think about it, like Gavin Newsom is the quintessential, the quintessential example of failing upward. You know, everything he does is a disaster, but that's exactly who they want in that position. So yeah, I think
Chat
Gavin
knows.
I think Gavin Newsom makes a really good Grover. Okay, this is where things get weird. Okay, PK. So this Muppets project it's fun. I'm having a good time with it. But then I discover this experiment called the Ganzfeld experiment. And it turns out this is it's some old school shit. It kind of phases in and out over time, but it's phasing back in right now. A lot of the kids are dusting up this Ganzfeld experiment technique and giving it a shot, making TikTok videos with it. But it is basically from the German words entire and field. It's an assessment used by parapsychologists that they contend can test for extrasensory perception or telepathy. And then you can read on, but then something that really stood out to me was in a typical Ganzfeld experiment, a receiver is placed in a room, relaxed in a comfortable chair with halved ping pong balls over their eyes and having a red light shown on them. And then the receiver also wears a set of headphones through which white or pink noise is played. And then the receiver is in this state of mild sensory deprivation for half an hour. And they're trying to transmit information from the sender to the receiver using these techniques of sensory deprivation. PK,
Whoa.
almost all the Muppets have ping pong eyeballs, dude.
Totally.
Are you feeling that?
Totally.
In
What in
Gonzo,
the world? So this was in the 70s, it looks like.
yeah, and it it gets naysayed, but it never goes away, and people are kind of. And here's another thing: maybe it works for some people and not for others.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right? So yeah, my Muppets project has taken on really fascinating dimensions. Now that I've seen that the ping pong balls have been removed from my eyes, but dude, have you ever been in a tanning bed, PK?
Man, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Way back in the day.
Yeah, and
Dude,
did you
this
do?
is like pre Monroe Institute
Yes,
type stuff.
very
But yeah,
early.
what about a tanning bed?
Well, do you remember the glasses that most people wear in the tanning bed?
Oh yeah.
They kind of look like ping pong balls put
Yeah.
over your eyes, and there's a bunch of red lights, and you're in a buzzing environment. Very fascinating. So,
Have you ever been in a
yeah, yep,
tanning bed?
yep, a couple of them. My Taekwondo dojo as a child was a weightlifting gym tanning bed facility
Mm-hmm.
and kung fu studio. So yeah, I've been in some tanning beds. I don't know if they were MK Ultra in my ass, but this is just a interesting. There's a nebula named the Spare Tire Nebula inside of the Grus constellation. Just just some little nugget I picked up on, and it kind of has his color with that purple. And then here, yeah, so here comes this is Andrew Tate, who's obsessed with numbers. He's a number 8 personality type. He's landed on the shores of Florida and all hell is broke loose. And I've already tried to, my prediction rate is not so good right now, but I'll go ahead and say, uh, wouldn't it be fascinating? The way that they killed the vampire in Nosferatu was kept him out past his curfew so that the sun caught him. And
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't and sure enough, Andrew Tate is here on bail. He's here on a limited time offer. And Romania just went all to shit this week. Does he have any authorities to report back to? It's
Did
gonna
they? What happened in Romania?
Oh, they had a bunch of political intrigue popping off.
Just
Like,
yeah.
yep, the
Hmm.
government, government's being unofficial in many layers. So yeah, a whole lot of counting numbers and the battle of the facts is on the horizon because back when I was a kid, you wanted measles. You know what I mean? You wanted to get them. And this is a headline. Did you hear about Trump had the jet scramble above Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple times. Yeah. So in the image, as soon as I saw the two jets, it made me think of Orange Man Bad, Emperor Card, who's got the two rams over his shoulders. But this whole research trail is going to blow up soon, y'all. Check out William Ramsey Investigates. He is digging into PK. This is trippy. He's digging into this, the Catcher in the Rye narrative,
Mm.
because I believe that Luigi Mangione, shooting that guy, that CEO in the back, whatever, was reworking of the ritual of Mark David Chapman, who shot uh, John Lennon in the back, just a block away from this event. It's all in the same neighborhood.
Hmm.
Uh, and so the shooting in the back told me right away. I look at the neighborhood; it's right up the street from the Dakota building, which is an analog to the Shandor building at the Ghostbusters. And so the whole um, Catcher in the Rye being kind of a MK Ultra trigger handbook that many assassins have been obsessed with, and even high moguls, they kind of signal to each other in public around the Catcher in the Rye. But PK, something I picked up on, buddy. This character, Holden Caulfield, who some of the art on the cover art of the book is encoding number 13 death card, reduces to the number 4. It's envy, right? But also the constellation of Hercules is in the dude's hat. And Holden Caulfield looks exactly like Luigi Mangione. He totally looks just like Mangione. Like Holden Caulfield has come to life, and he's been embedded into this narrative. But PK, I just want to tell you, Holden Caulfield in the book is constantly saying everybody is fake. Everything is fake. It's all fake and gay. And I am super inclined to say that the low dose nihilism of calling everything fake and gay is actually summoning forth the spirit of Holden Caulfield into the zeitgeist at large.
So what do you think that's about? Why is that a book that is, one of those books that they make kids read?
Uh,
I don't think I've
mhm.
ever read that one, but isn't that a thing that
Yes,
in a lot of schools they had to read that book?
yes, and a lot of schools today are no longer enforcing that, And it is very obvious on the face of it, like it should not have been circulated. It just shouldn't have. And when you know what it's about and you see how they pushed it onto multiple generations, you realize that they kind of need psychopaths at hand, and they need to be able to maybe identify them and train them into certain patterns so they can isolate them and maybe recruit them in the future.
Hmm.
And I wonder how much Luigi Mangione fits some of those hallmarks you know, that he walks right into it. But uh yeah.
He should have had a book on him.
Oh,
Should have had a
you know,
copy.
they said that some of his when they arrested him, some of his material was actually over by the merry-go-round, right where the merry-go-round is in the book in from the fictional novel. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the
That's weird.
merry-go-round is in all three layers of it. And then this is just some doodle work of mine around the fasces. The fasces is a religare, it's a coming together, it's a binding. Um, and in a strange way, I think all of these symbols are coming together of their own sorts symbolically. But yeah, also look at all these implements from the Egyptian burial rites down here, the death tools. And then look at the death card and how I could almost arrange the pieces of the burial tools to be shaped like that skeleton up there. Isn't that trippy?
Yeah, that's a good find.
Here's the territories map. Oh, PK, can you pull up Stellarium for us tonight?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Dude, yes. Okay. So when PK pulls up Stellarium, I'm going to be talking about the hostage position over the shoulder of Virgo. And I've seen this, this is a trope from the films, but something I'm low grade obsessed with, that apparently on eclipses, there is this little corner over the shoulder of Virgo where things tend to line up. And it just totally reminds me of, they say that bin Laden used his wife as a human shield before he was killed. All this, whatever, crazy wash, rinse, repeat. And then here is a Black Knight satellite, y'all. Black Knight satellite looks like Thoth. It totally
Hmm.
looks like an ibis, the beak of an ibis. Let's see. Jesuit Binks. Jar Jar Binks is totally the Jesuit heraldry. And then this is the one I wanted to share. This is an old depiction. I think this is from Faust. This is an old drawing of, the moment of the eclipse, the old way that they used to explain the shadow upon the earth. But I have this cropped with a poem that Mephistopheles has the chorus recite when he escapes from Faust's laboratory the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Oh, okay, hold on. Actually, let me stop sharing and let's do some Stellarium, because maybe if I remember, we'll come back to the Boötes and the Corona Borealis constellation has a new star, the Blaze star. Okay. Um, was born last year, and apparently over the next couple weeks, this Corona Borealis is kind of washing down some, maybe some Corona energy over the Earth.
All right. I got Stellarium pulled up, but I also found this list. Let's just look at this list real quick.
Okay.
And it looks like I only had the I only did like 1500s, 1600s. But I know I did more. But anyway, I couldn't, this is all I could find. But so just look at this timeline real quick. All right, the John D, the Elizabeth one. John D died what, like 1608 or 9, something like that. Elizabeth won, and then I think it was James, King James took over right after Elizabeth. But you got Tycho Brahe in here. Some of these people I forget who they are. Do you know who John Napier is? Rudolph II. He's something about him books. Can't think of. Sir Walter Raleigh. Memorized it. I the name sticks out. Couldn't tell you who he is. Bacon, Galileo. See, I didn't know he was around this time. I thought he was earlier for some reason.
Yes.
Then, of course, you got Shakespeare, King James, Kepler. Not sure who that is. Oh, he might just be one of the Royal Society people. But then you got Hobbes, and so now we're getting a little later. Like, see, Hobbes and this guy, Descartes was born 1596 at the end, right? That's when D died. So we're getting a little bit later, but Hobbes and Descartes, are kind of right after. So you can see Bacon would be like an old man to Hobbes.
Yeah.
Descartes, Cromwell, the whole Cromwellian, revolution, kind of little civil war or whatever. And then Spinoza, Leibniz, a little bit afterwards. But that's what I'm talking about. Where just kind of knowing, and I bet if I looked up these people, there's definitely a reason I put these people on that list, but it was so long ago. But such a good exercise just to get that timeline going,
Big time.
Get that timeline down. So here we got Stellarium. Let me turn on this thing that you guys see the constellations better.
Nice.
And so what's cool about this is that even last night, which was let me think. Yeah, around 3 a.m. What's cool about this is that let's not. Yeah. So it would even it shows the moon here. Let me follow it.
Wow.
See, full moon.
Wow.
And it shows it. Even turns a little red.
Wow, buddy. That is neat.
Like, how neat is that, Stellarium? It even did that on and it shows the full.
Wow.
So yeah, I thought that was pretty fancy of Stellarium to even have that bit of detail in here. So go back to present time. What star were you talking about? Oh, you did say something about the Leonids meteor shower.
Yeah, thank you. So just if anybody remembers the Princess Leia picture I was looking at earlier, this is how right there at that the shoulder of the Virgin, it seems to be it's where the equinox is. Seems to be a very important symbol. The Lyrid meteor showers, they
Is it
pop.
Lyrid?
Yep, Lyrid. Yeah, they kind of come on the scene around 413, so almost a month from now. They'll start to come on the scene. But just like we were doing with the south toward meteor showers, PK, it progresses across the sky. It actually has an arc of its own. And so you can kind of see it's coming out of Hercules.
Mm-hmm.
And Now, Hercules has been getting a lot of pings because, for one, it's the death card. The shape of the death card encodes the Hercules constellation. And it's also in the hat of the Catcher in the Rye. Um, uh, but this Lyrid meteor shower comes out of Hercules and slowly progresses towards the Lyra constellation over the course of maybe 2 weeks or so. Can you kind of go day by day and show it how it moves?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it goes toward it.
yeah, I'm getting the biggest kick out of seeing these meteor showers as, fulfilling the blocking requirements for events on a stage. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know. My imagination goes wild, but I just have to mention Bob Dylan. I just have to, because of course I've been I've had the promulgation protocols placed upon my psyche to think about the musicians. And just recently, I watched the Bob Dylan film, and the Lyrid constellation is the guitar of the heavens. I always call Sagittarius the sage guitarius. There is exactly one guitar in the sky, and that is it. And so, yeah, its meteor shower is going to be flaring up in a month. It'll start, and it hits its pinnacle expression on 422, which is right next to the 420 and a lot of the Beltane rituals all through that week.
And aren't we in the lull right now? Remember you said
yes. Thank you. Yes, this is the most stark gap in time throughout the year where there are the least meteor showers. And so I track 20 major meteor showers, and there are plenty of minor meteor showers here, there, and everywhere. But on the 20 major ones, it is between February and April is the longest, at least 2-month gap, maybe longer, where there are no major meteor showers for a long time.
yeah, you could tell. So what I'm looking at, all the yellow is basically inactive. And you could tell that around when you're saying there's not many green ones.
Cool.
And then they turn green like that, like the April lineads that we were just talking about. Turn that color.
Yeah.
When they get active. So yeah, you could tell in this time and starting kind of in February, see how much yellow there is. See, you got that one, you saw that one turn. It's on one turn over here. But
dude, it's so amazing how much information we're looking at right now. You know what I mean?
I know.
It's just so amazing how much information we're looking at. Oh, looks like we might have Zaralath backstage, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
There he is. What up? What up?
Yes. Oh, wait.
To the link.
Big up, Zaralath. Welcome to the Slick Dissident Shared Artistic Expression, my friend. So glad you could join us after you're going live on your channel.
Yeah. It just kind of like pops like, let me get this over with because I finished the book. So that's another playlist completed.
On the 9 halls of Midgard?
9 doors of Midgard, yes.
Yeah, man.
But let me not interrupt. You're doing the Stellarium 7 app over there. That's looking real good. But I imagine you had something in mind that you wanted to talk with me about too.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring you on to the show. We had Chris kind of canceled on us, and I didn't even know you were doing your Midgard when I invited you. It was like you had just gone on.
I straight up like decided to go live like like 45 minutes before I went live.
Nice, nice, man.
Yeah. I had quite a long day handling a number of things, and I start work on Monday, et cetera, et cetera.
Right on, right on. Well, welcome to the Weaves, my friend.
Indeed. Hi, PK. PK, if we've talked online, but I don't think we've done a conversation face to face.
I don't think we've ever done this sort of thing, so this will be a first, man. Glad you got your tits out, ready to go. So
Yeah, just about. I wasn't sure how tits out I wanted to be because nobody else was, so I threw them.
yeah, you cover up a little bit. Hey, it's all good, man.
Just a little bit. It's not even decency. I'm just reading the room.
Oh, I love it. So one thing we could go over, if you want, we could quickly go over these 12 worldviews of Steiner. Well,
Rudolf Steiner
that he put together.
Yeah, PK shared a video a couple weeks back that was like the most brilliant 60 seconds on YouTube I've ever seen. It was a fella talking about how important it is to not only acknowledge that there are at least 12 other types of worldviews. This was a generalization for the conversation. But not just to acknowledge that there are 12 of them, but actually go out of your way to place yourself in the position of these 12 other ways to see the world. And so it's just kind of a framework of isms, Zaralath. And we're just kind of looking at this framework of isms.
Ah, okay.
And I thought it was interesting too. He put together like so on the Enneagram there, right? You have the thinking, feeling. What's the other one? The other triad?
Doing.
Mm-hmm. So here, we're kind of working with 12 and he's got 4. But this was something I don't know if Steiner put together those dudes in the video. But anyway, you got feeling, thinking, sensing, and will over here. And I liked this picture. Let me go to the. It's not pulling up. Let me go to the.
Fascinating that one of them is mathematism.
Yep. Mathematism is an interesting one. And from looking into these a little bit, a lot of them, they overlap with each other. You'll see that they like bleed into each other. Like I couldn't really tell you the difference between phenomenalism and sensationalism. They're very similar, so, but yeah, mathematism and rationalism, bleed together pretty well. This one I thought was cool because it shows kind of the opposites. And this is one thing I was talking about last time with the obvious opposite. We have materialism and its opposite, spiritualism or spiritism.
Yes.
And another somewhat obvious would be the idealism and realism. And it sort of is like what's more important or what came first. But let's jump into this real quick and see, because there are some things I'd like to pick your brain about, Gabe, with because I know you kind of dabble too, and a little bit about a lot of the philosophers, it seems, in their and what they think. So here's the one with realism we'll start with, and I'll flip back to this sort of thing. So we're starting right here, which they have opposite of idealism, but realism is a philosophical viewpoint according to things that are known or perceived in existence or nature, which is independent whether anyone is thinking about or perceiving them. So, there's this idea when we get into other worldviews, like one is called psychism, and the more modern term is panpsychism, which, you can kind of just break down that word, and panpsychism would be like all mind, so like the all is mind idea.
Mm-hmm.
And also too, well, we'll get into that word, but realism let's see. That's kind of all I have with realism, and we're just doing a glazed over, you know, I don't want to go too like academic with this. And, you know, like I said, I think the
Which one was you said phenomenism, and what was the other one that you couldn't distinguish from phenomenism?
sensationalism,
Sensationalism.
or
Okay.
and this, well, and it's also called sensualism.
Okay. Well, that's okay. So yeah, that's phenomenon versus senses, right? I mean, senses you can get real generalized, right? You know, especially when you get into quote the sixth sense and things like that. And because like I think one is like one is like kind of like physical, you know, it's like the five, maybe the sixth sense for per se, but a phenomenon is more, it's more like you know, it's more like observing, um it's more like the experience of the situation, which is going to encompass sensory, but it's also just kind of gonna be like your whole, it's taking in a, I think, a deeper perception of those senses, because it's about something that's a phenomenon, right? A phenomenon that's happening. If you're in a haunted house, you're experiencing a phenomenon, right? So
Yep.
I think that's kind of where the distinction is, which seems to make it make sense that phenomenism would be closer on the chart there to spiritual, because it's just a degree or so separated from making it. Sensationalism is more like experientialism, if you will, like experience in the material sense of it.
Right. I think that's, yeah, I think you nailed it. I think the one difference is like phenomenalism is like the things exist whether, you know, they're perceived or not. And then sensationalism is all about, well, you come to knowledge through your senses. As in, you know, that's kind of the only way that you get there is by your senses. It's how
It's
you
yeah, it's kind of like on the Cartesian level of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you nailed that. So, anything what to add to realism? I'm still not clear on this.
Mhm.
Do you know much about realism, Gabe?
Well, you know, something that came to mind when you had it on the wheel as
Mhm.
the opposite of the
Idealism.
idealism. I think a lot about how uh, pragma is the opposite of luda. And on that wheel, I think that pragma would be the realism, and
Mhm.
luda might relate to the idealism. Um, but I'm definitely thinking of pragma as relating to realism. Pragmatism, what is pragmatic? Um, and yeah, just I think I see harmony in the opposites between realism and idealism, and pragmatism and ludus, the love of silliness, of fun lovingness.
Right. You got Lou in there, right? That Lou, like prefixing sound is associated obviously with Lucifer, or it's associated with Lu, the Celtic god, and other places, and its direct implication is quote light, right? And
Yeah.
Lucifer is also Prometheus, which is forethought, right? So that makes sense that it's closer on the idealism spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes
Mm-hmm.
a lot more imagination. Like I try to push my idealism, and I try to keep it um grounded, or at least navigable, by knowing the realism of things. What am I realistic about, and what am I a foolish ideologue about, right?
Yeah.
Because my heart needs the ideology. The realism is too fucking depressing.
Yeah.
True.
And so, okay, so one thing I want to say, like, as we keep going, because this I think will be good, is that, and everyone in the chat, just so you know, we're going through these not to try and judge them or like say that they're right or wrong. I think this is a cool exercise if we go through these and try in a way to like justify them or try in a way to see how they make sense. So in a more positive way rather than going through these and just shitting on them, because that'd be very easy to do.
Right.
But to go through these and be like, oh yeah, okay, I could see how, and kind of like logically try and make yourself convince yourself of this sort of thing. So realism, I don't know. The opposite is the idealism that you're talking about. Yes, which they want to put with the Plato's forms and ideas. So basically, like the idea of a horse is eternal, like, or the idea of beauty is eternal, although beauty will express itself in multiple different ways.
Yeah.
The idea in and of itself is beyond the things that we see. That's the idealism as far as I understand it.
Yeah.
Right.
I love this. I think that Luda versus Pragma is going to be increasingly more important as people are getting with the program, as there's a new overlay of what finance is even going to be. And it's going to provoke the pragmatists every time they see somebody having fun, every time somebody's not taking things seriously or being creative. So yeah, I think that this is just an interesting dichotomy we're dancing along with the topic.
This brings up a good point here. So realist is someone who accepts and deals with things just as they are, focusing on objective reality. And so this makes me think of, so what I just said about idealism.
Yeah.
The realism could be, well, because you saw something beautiful, therefore now you have the idea of what beautiful is. So you kind of flip it on its head. It would make sense that it's opposite. So the idea of a horse only exists because there is a horse.
Right.
Now, I don't know how it gets into when you're talking about fanciful stuff, but.
Well, I mean, many people, and it's aspects of all forms of magical thinking, think that it's the other way around. That because we can conceive of the horse is allowed to exist in the realm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That'd be more toward the idealism.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Like,
just again,
like,
just
well,
to reiterate, I'm not trying to prescribe to any of these. I'm just going to talk as in positively about them.
I'm gonna hit the head, but I'm listening.
All right.
I was gonna make a point like in the phenomenological community, like Mandela effect, right? People look at things like the what's called the capybara, the little like the giant gerbil, if you will. It's just like how did that not known to be a real thing that existed until a few years ago, considering how close this thing is to populations in general, how long we've had things like National Geographic and the internet interested in exotic wildlife for a long time, and then all of a sudden this super animal shows up, right? And it becomes like the meme of like the year, right? So like that can be an idea, right? That like the world on a collective level needed a new kind of totemistic animal to inspire them to enter into our mythology, and then it emerged from the corners of our unconscious.
Are you saying that like it exists now? It's like a known thing?
Well, everybody knows that the capybara exists. Nobody thinks about the fact that we didn't know that the capybara existed. There's so many of them. They didn't just pop up out of evolution somewhere, and they weren't in like that like remote of a whatever. It's just like, it's like, hey, did you know about all these different villages that always enjoyed all these little rodent dudes that are all around? Look how cute and friendly they are. Right.
Right.
And it's just like, why have I never heard of this thing? This is the cutest thing, right? Like somebody would have been like, America's gonna love it, right? But nobody thought about that for a while. No,
Yeah.
so like it's really weird, right? Like for all we know, all the dinosaurs are alive, but they're always out of our conscious field. That's how crazy it could be, depending on where we have and have not been.
Yeah, man. I like that one. You know, Chris sent me a link last few nights back about the mermaid is making a big resurgence. And there are even people who are claiming to be mermaid hunters and deal in the trade of mermaids for elite dinners. And there's some dude said he went to an elite dinner party and they opened up a serving tray of mermaid and started cutting off pieces and handing it around.
Right. And that was probably a ritual. That was probably an effigy that was being eaten.
Yes.
That was gone through a consecration, body of Christ, blood of Christ kind of situation, right? However, you keep effing doing that, you might just manifest mermaids.
Well, my fascination is Neptune has been sitting in Pisces for so long. It's been in there for like, I don't know, maybe up to some teen years. The Neptune has been creeping out of Pisces right now. And Vivek Vivaswamy, his character is off the radar at the moment, but I think he's going to pop back any day now because his character in the Justice League was totally Aquaman. And so this hullabaloo around mermaids at the present moment in the zeitgeist is going to really pop off when Vivek Vivaswamy is back on the radar.
That name, I haven't, I've heard that name a few times. I'm not placing it to the field that he is in.
Oh, Vivaswamy was basically just one of the Justice League that Chump put together with his cabinetry. And
he's an administration guy. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
And the day he went off the radar was pretty much when the LA fires kicked off. And his planet was over LA on my map.
Interesting. So wait, the LA fires kicked off before Trump took office. So he's been a ghost, but he had to show up in Congress to be confirmed if he's, or is he not was he in a non
appointee?
He didn't have to go. Is he like Musk? He's like a hired guy. Is that what it is?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. He's one of those guys. Got it. Okay.
Yep. He was in the cabinetry and then he disappeared. Yeah. And I'm expecting him to pop back up in some capacity any day now.
You know, it's interesting. I was just listening to a badass conversation between Gnostic Informant and Jason Giorgiani, and they were talking about how all of Trump's Hindu cabinet members swore on, I think, the Bhagavad Gita.
You got it, buddy.
But the thing that made the conversation so effing interesting is that it was exclusive to the larger text. Yes. And they made the point, it's like, what if you just came in and all you did was swear on the Gospel of Mark or something? I forget which example he made, but the point is, imagine just swearing on one book of the Bible. That was the point he was making.
Yeah,
right?
The Bhagavad Gita isn't that long, is it? I mean, I have it, and I have 4 things, but the text itself is very short.
Right,
yes.
Exactly. And you know, it might be just because there's so much mythology in there that maybe the only thing that matters as far as government capacity is concerned is just the lessons in that. I don't know. I have to actually read stuff. I don't talk too much about Hindu Vedic stuff much because I still need to get my hands on the book and a book in a translation that I think is honoring my level of etymology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zerlath, I love that you brought out of that whole show with Georgiani, you brought forward the most interesting part of it here to tonight.
Mm.
Yes, I highly recommend the whole show for everybody, because he's pointing out how, you know, these in the mythology, there is still legitimate animosity in ideologies today that are still running things. And that is when my ears were perked up the most, because he talked about the Yashuras versus the Devis. You know, the way Georgiani was laying it out was as though Zarathustra is anti Vedic. He was raging against the hegemony of the Vedic texts. And I thought that was very interesting to see Zarathustra is raging against the Vedics. And then he also said that Siddhartha, in his time, like Zarathustra, that he was raging against the energy of the Vedic texts. And I just love pointing out those commonalities, that there was something about the status quo, the hegemony of the ideology of their time, that they had to carve out a clearing that is not Vedic per se.
Very cool.
Yeah, and he talked about the Devis versus the Yashuras, which I have to say, like, I see that kind of being important again, maybe to some degree. And I always presumed that I would sympathize with the Devis, because that's part of what I've discovered. The 9 muses correspond to the 9 Devis of the Hindu mythology. But I don't know. I haven't heard this story told from the Yashura's perspective. You know what I mean?
Right. I think, like, so I'm trying to remember because it's basically the sky gods versus like the earth gods, because that's just the war of the gods, and all the mythology is this dichotomy of the two, and I forget which is which, because it's always in the manner that the religions developed, that the sky gods ended up having a semi-dominion over the earth gods. Thus, they were always kind of portrayed in the negative light. In the Aesir Vanir War, the Vanir are the bad guys because they succumb to Golveg, gold greed, who, like, I am not one of those pagans that thinks that Freya, Hath, and Golveg are a tripartite goddess. I do not believe that's what it is, because I've made this statement before that Golveg is never referenced with positive qualities, and Hath is never referenced with positive qualities, unlike Vili and Ve of the Odinic trilogy, who do. Freya may have a tripartite identity, but it's not in those two. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not in those two. They are Jotuns of the anti-gods. They came, Hath was kind of like the evil woman within, and Golvig was kind of like the evil woman from the outside, coming in kind of like the way a vulva comes in to do prophecy, except in an evil sense, right? And giving everybody this, quote, gold greed, right? And then that is what they're fighting over, because the gold is the soul. They're fighting over the souls of humanity. Right. And it's about a time where people are disputing over their values, as someone who is more of an earthen worshiper versus somebody who's more of a sky worshiper. And this can get into idealism versus realism. I looked at it as, like, Asatru are like more like progressive type of folks that are into development and building. And so there's more like urban, more like interested in the advancement of man, where Vanatru is, let's get like real guttural about things. Let's get down in the fucking dirt and not shy away from our animal nature and bring that into humanity.
And isn't Asatru more popular in Iceland? Is that correct?
Asatru is typically Asatru is more popular because most people like to interpret it that way as a winning team kind of thing, as like there's the overwhelming amount of Aesir god stories to take from, as opposed to Vanir gods, because you've got Heimdall is an Aesir, Thor is an Aesir, Odin, Tyr, all Aesirs, Baldur's an Aesir, right? And then Vanir gods, you got Njord, Frey, Freya. You could maybe say that some Jotuns have deific crossover. So you've got the goddess Ran of the sea. And then, I think there's another. I think she has a male consort. And Ran is known for drowning sailors, right?
Oh, damn.
She's pretty hardcore, but yeah.
You need a great whiteboard behind you so you can map all these personalities out.
Yeah, map these guys out.
yeah, I probably should get a white. Let me. I got so many things I have to budget, and then I got to make room for it, and then it's just like it'll just be another thing that clutters the man cave, and I will fix a bunch of things, and then I will get there.
We could even take a picture of PK's isms and try to map all the characters you just listed on around the isms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's aspects, there's always aspects to that. My work involves, each realm, which has a corresponding deity, is an aspect of the psyche, an aspect of your soul.
Totally. And that always gets me how Psyche, the Greek character, her name translates to soul. And somehow we use psychologists, but we don't give them credit for the soul work that they're doing. You know what I mean?
Isn't that so weird? Yeah. That the psyche translates into soul, but now we have two different words and we talk of the soul as if it's not the psyche.
Yeah.
We've separated them in our
yeah.
words. It is bizarre.
It is so bizarre. And I see no difference between the two. However,
soul is the psyche. Yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be.
Yeah. I have heard somebody say that that your language is the soul of your people, and I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I really like that, and
that is it's more quintessential than people truly know in that respect, and why like tracking the languages is one of the most important things to back up what you're looking at when you're doing genetic marker work and stuff like that. That's why I respect people like Tom Rousel of Survive the Jive, because he takes it all in. He takes it all in.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And thinking about this stuff, the language is the symbols. Like, what it boils down to, these mouth sounds that we're making are symbols for things, so that's just interesting when you think about like, all this symbol, it's all about the symbols. Well, that's like literally what everything is.
Yeah. Simple one is O. Try saying O without doing this with your mouth. Oh, look at that. It's an O. It's a zero. It's a
right.
Total, right? And that's O then.
And then when you go E, and then say E, and then put your mouth together like that.
Right.
E, it turns into a U. E. Yep. You can't keep the E. Yeah. That's fun to play with.
What is it? There's three kinds of mouth sounds. There's dental,
glottal.
Yeah, I can't remember their exact names, but I always keep this book right here, and they're
nice. Yeah. It's got the anatomy.
This is my atomic English etymology book. It's just like, let me shut all of you up, right? This is gonna take me a second because it's not. Oh yeah. Verbal forms. Yeah, you can keep talking. I need one. I need one
Yeah.
second to find it.
So I am of the belief that when they changed the definition of the planet such that Pluto was demoted briefly, I think that they were uh, conditioning us to just accept the changing of definitions. You know what I mean? And I think Pluto was a big one that, yeah, just kind of softened us up to uh, in this. I see it as an injury upon our soul when they changed the definitions of things that you were uh, considered defining the realm at large. They're injuring our soul. There's an insult to that.
Man. Do you mean the Israelis are the most anti-Semitic people? By definition? What?
They're anti-semantic.
Anti-semantic? They're the literal anti-Semites?
Hmm.
So bizarre.
So, yeah. Okay, so yeah, it was dentals, gutturals, and labials.
Labials.
I wasn't sure on that, and I just didn't want to just say labia for nothing. But yeah, gutturals are like the G, the K, yeah, like the G and the K, the G, the K, right?
Yeah.
That's why is that guttural? Because you've got to contract the back of the throat to make the noise, right?
Yeah.
And then the dentals are obvious because it involves running the sound over the teeth from behind the teeth, and then the labials are it gives yeah, it's like the V, the B, the P, the PH,
Right.
yeah, labials is when the lips have to parse, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what it is, and that you'll notice that's all consonants, right? So vowels don't count because vowels are free flowing. Vowels are fluid. Vowels
Right.
are
Yeah, man.
fluid and solid.
Very important etymological facts for Pi Day today.
Yes, Pi Day.
314.
I thought I learned some today. Today is the day that that Karl Marx died. He died on 314. And I thought that was fucking hysterical because he died on Pi Day. Why? Because that's the debt he's accrued with his ideas.
This guy has an interesting theory about, so he says there's 5 gutturals, linguals, palatals, dentals, libels, labels,
and nasals.
and nasals. But he says he's got this thing with the 5, ties it together with the pentagram, and goes and tries and says that basically like these 5 mouth sounds are how they used to how we used to make words, especially for like deity and God's names. We would try and use all of the mouth sounds to make these words. He's got a what's it called? He writes a bunch of articles. So wherever you find like academic articles, and his name, I'll throw it in the chat, is Johannes Richer.
The pentagramming of it is very interesting.
Yeah.
Could almost,
this guy.
You could almost yeah, you could work the 5 senses through the alphabet in a color code. That's really
right.
That's fun.
That's kind of what he does.
Makes me think like, are some letters ears, and are some other letters taste, and are other letters for smell?
Yeah, like check this out. So here, 5 phonetic sounds. The naming most important Greek gods, virtues corresponding to the and he corresponds them with the Germanic deities and virtues. Basically, like, see how he highlights these and tries to hit all 5. You'd have to. It's pretty there's the 5 that we were talking about.
Okay.
Where was it? Yeah, I like this one. This was of the legendary founders of the city of Thebes. And how one guy, okay, is the viper, which is the tongue. And then the man who comes up is the palate. The throat is the underworld. And then you got the lips. And then you got the teeth on the ground. So he puts these, the founders of Thebes, and sort of makes a like it's a mythological story perhaps of the like advent of starting to speak, you know. So that's kind of neat to think about. The underworld is the throat, you know, the sound coming up from there.
Yeah,
The viper's the tongue, right? The viper can sting the tongue. It's how we talk, you know. So it's pretty neat to look at stuff in a language way. It's pretty cool.
The I find it interesting with 2 and 3 because you got hypernor is called man who comes up, right? And for it to be about coming up and it to have hyper in there, right? It's like it makes me think of the of Hyperboreans, right? You know, high humans in a sense, right? And then of course you got Chthonius. Chthonic is the underworld. So they're it's like wrestling names.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Back then you didn't really have a name until like you were older. Like you were like nameless as a child practically until you had like an identity. And then you know, so like yeah, you end up taking whatever because they find those qualities in you. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I love how in the epics, in the old ways of addressing people, if they state your parents' name, then you know that things are about to get extremely contractual. Like the fate of your whole family is being summoned into the conversation.
Because they're like, do these Germanic deities here, does this see, this is like, I don't know, nonsense to me. Does this ring a bell? Do you notice?
That's Tyr. That's Tiwaj. Tiwaj is the rune name for Tyr. You know, associated with that letter T, it would be a dental name then. Right?
What's this one?
Witaz.
Would that be what?
Witaz is probably derivative of Wotanaz, which Wotanaz is a Germanic version of Odin. Odin and a few other things like that are Norse. Wotanaz is one of the Germanic names for Odin because the German people and the Norse people are 2 different people, right? They kind of come from the same Hyperborean overfamily, but they're a little bit different, right? But yeah, so you got Tyr represented and Odin represented. Yeah, Tiwaz and I find it interesting that it's just Tiwaz backwards.
Right.
So that's kind of clever. So yeah, wisdom is Odin, justice is Tyr. Absolutely.
And what about this one?
Tiosko so the one, the Theor. Well, I'm not sure about the context of what the theorem is on this chart, but it looks. I mean, it looks like he's talking about stuff that's etymologically related to Tiwaz, right? That would be the idea. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah. Huh. Well, cool. Yeah, that I didn't know Tiwaz. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like all of these in the Norse Germanic, all of these gods have many different names, especially Odin. They all have various different names that are variants across tribes or different kind of attested kind of titles from other stories and contexts of the deity, right? You know, like if you ever see the name Grimnir, for instance, that's another name for Odin, right? And there's specific stories in the Eddas in which he is referred to as Grim or Grimnir. And so that helps you find the context of when you would, in application, speak of the High One by that name. Probably because it's got Grim in the title, because I'm still doing a study on those kinds of things, but I would assume because it says Grim, it has something to do with death and his psychopompic attributes.
Yeah, I hear Grimnir, and all I hear is anagram for Enneagram. So I got a couple graphics I'm going to bring up again. Oh, unless you got something, PK.
Oh, no, go.
Okay, let's see. So the constellation of Corona Borealis has been brought up Zaralath with our buddy Rock Castaldo. You remember that episode he did recently about the Corona Borealis?
I was listening to some of it, and then a few other pressing things took me away from completing it.
Okay, yeah. So last year, the Blaze star was born essentially, and they I think there was a nebula, and so if you can see my mouse, the Corona Borealis is this horseshoe-shaped constellation right next to Boötes. And in some Native American cultures, let me see. I think it might be the other way. Is the name of Corona Borealis? Here it is the Bear Den. So,
Okay.
so the oral history has fleshed out the stories of stars more fully than what rocks can tell, and also points to a very distant past for Ursa Major stories in particular. According to an Iroquois story, the bear emerges from these stars in the constellation of Corona Borealis. He is pursued through the summer skies by 7 hunters, robin, chickadee, moose bird, or gray pigeon, gray jay, pigeon, blue jay, owl, and shawwet, a kind of owl. As autumn nears, the 4 hunters furthest from bear lose the trail, with the stars that denote them setting one after another. At last, Robin fatally wounds bear with an arrow. The blood of the bear's colors are the fall leaves red. One drop of the bear's blood falls on Robin, coloring his breast with red. So, yeah, Roccastaldo has been going on about how there are waves coming off of Corona Borealis right now, and that over the next week or so, we're going to be bombarded by these waves. And I find that so fascinating because we still have one more eclipse to go. I think on the 22nd, we have a solar, an echo eclipse.
Now, okay, so a thing about the Corona Borealis too is so in the sky, because this picture doesn't show me everything because it's focused on Boötes. Is this near Ursa Minor or Major?
Kind of.
Why is it Bear Den? Like, what else is here? Is Boötes considered a bear in some cultures, or what?
Good question. It's just off the map here, but you can see my mouse on Corona, right?
Yeah.
So it's if you follow the arm of Boötes up here, off screen is where Ursa starts. So it does look like Ursa is coming out of this cave. It does have that anatomical correspondence to it.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. Sounds
Yeah.
good. And
But-
and you didn't reference, like, you got Fenrir
Yeah.
on that map too, and you didn't say anything about it, because I
That's-
also noticed you had Hades with Cerberus on in the other picture.
Right. Let's see. Hold on. This way. Yes. Yep. So yeah, here's Hades. He's got the 3 dogs by his side. And what is really fascinating, a lot of people know about Canis Major and Minor. They're more well known. They're in the springtime. But over here in the fall, as we're going into the darkness of the year, there are 2 dogs again, Canis Venatici.
Mm.
And these 2 dogs are even on leashes, which is unique. These dogs have leashes depicted in their constellations, and they're running away. They're running, let's just say, to the right. They're running away from Boötes.
Hmm.
And then on this larger map, this is where Canis Venatici is, over here on their leashes.
Okay. Okay.
But across the ecliptic down south is a big ass wolf.
Okay.
And so the lupus wolf is down south, but Canis Venatici dogs on leashes are up here in the north.
Hmm.
So of all the sections of the sky, this is the section that has 3 dogs, all in essentially at the equinox, at the fall equinox time of year.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I'll say this much too, right? For correspondences, right? Because
Yeah.
there are 2 canines of the underworld of note in Norse mythology. Everybody knows and loves Loki's favorite daughter, Fenrir. Well, second favorite. I suppose he likes Hell a little bit better,
Oh,
but
right.
but I don't want to get into that right now. But there is also a hellhound. There is a hellhound that stands at the pass into Helheim. This is the other psychopomp in Norse myth. His name is Garm, Garm, or Garmer, with the R at the end. This one is a little bit different. It's not it has a different role in Ragnarok. It gets Garmer fights who in Ragnarok? Garmer gets in a fight with somebody because Fenris is loosed from Tyr's leash to go and swallow Odin whole, right? And so Fenrir doesn't fight Tyr. He fights Odin and destroys Odin in the Ragnarok. So I think it might be Tyr fights Garmer, right? Holding back the guardian of the guardian of the gate at the end, kind of thing. Probably because it's caused Garmer also to do evil things by Loki's tricks.
It's a debt jubilee.
Jubilee?
A debt jubilee at the end of the story.
Yeah, the dead, yeah, all the dead jubilee. Right. Well, there's the Ragnarok, and then there's after the Ragnarok and the deities that emerge after the Ragnarok. Right?
Big ups there, lads. So what's the if the Ragnarok has already happened, what's the equivalent for Norse apocalypse in the future?
If the Ragnarok,
Armageddon.
well, yeah, well, so the Ragnarok is a representative of just everything collapsing in on itself, right? It's collapsing into a singularity because in the Ragnarok, it's the war of the worlds. So the light elves and the dark elves are tearing each other apart. The forces of Helheim are trying to invade Asgard. Muspelheim, the fire realm, is burning Vanaheim to the ground. Thor is fighting off all of the Jotuns, and he has to deal with Jormungandr. right? These are all the forces that are going on. The nightmares in Niflheim are running amok all over the place because the borders of the realms have divided, and so the mists of Niflheim are everywhere, causing illusions, and the beasts from because there are the things in Helheim, like the dead and the things of the unconscious, but then there's the things of Niflheim, and Niflheim is kind of like a madness realm, right? And it's where you go. Like Niflheim in your psyche is an Odinic realm. It's the place where you go temporarily insane to get knowledge. It's not like hidden in the shadows, but it is just something in front of you, encrypted, that drives you nuts, right? And so you don't spend too much time in Niflheim, because as you're inhaling the noxious fumes, it's slowly eroding your sanity, right? And this is why you need Odin to access that channel.
Wow. So that's why I take breaks from my Muppets project.
Or why?
Oh man, totally could have used
don't
you
take
earlier.
mushrooms every fucking week.
The power of temperance compels you.
Mm.
I see Chris is buzzing me. Looks like he's feeling a little better, but I don't think he's going to join.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
There he is in chat. What's up, Chris?
Big love, brother. So let's see. I might have a couple more graphics to pull up, but yeah, we will have a reconvening. And Zaralath, we're on next Friday. Did we end up with
Thursday? Thursday. Yes, we can't do Friday. Yeah. So yes, on Thursday, 7 p.m. We're doing round 2 proper with Robert Phoenix. If you caught the prior show where Robert came in late, and then we got really cooking before it was a work night and I had to leave. And so then we postponed the thing we tried to do a week or so ago because Robert needed more prep time. And so he wanted to bring an A game for me. So I'm touched. I am a quality person that he cares to bring an A. I'm worthy of an A game, right? So anyway, so yeah, so he's going to be back, and we're going to be trying to get a proper tap in on the idea of what are the next astrological beats coming up that are mirroring some various national troubles that, like, a lot of people are just talking about how things are mirroring American Civil War right now, or American Revolution and all that stuff. And I think that's getting I think we're talking about that very well. I mean, I listen to enough Leo King to do that, but I was very interested in Robert's intuitive take in just more in our free flow of a conversation, and seeing if there's anything that maybe was correspondent happening in any other empire or major nation, right? Just so we're not limiting ourselves is the idea. That's kind of what I've been not trying to tell Robert much. Like, he's the guy who knows the things. I'm just giving him the subject matter, and it'll be fucking great. It'll be great.
Big time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think I might even go watch the game that he mentioned in the last episode, just to freshen up on that. Have you seen the game, PK, with Michael Douglas?
Talking movie? No.
Yeah, it's a kind of an old movie with Michael Douglas where he's a rich guy and his brother buys him kind of like a secret society initiation LARP that is live, and throughout the whole movie you're like, you as the viewer of the film, you're saying, is this real? No, it can't be real. Is it? Yeah, it's real. No, it's not real. Yes, it's real. And you end up going back and forth by design. And yeah, so Robert recommended that film. And then we also talked about who is the food connoisseur, Zaralath? that we talked about?
The
That was
food,
who was killed. He tours the world and does this food show.
Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain, yes. So Anthony Bourdain came up also, and I wonder. I'm going to kind of flesh this out and then run it by Robert Phoenix, but I wonder if I watch the game with Michael Douglas, and then I look at the narrative around Bourdain, I wonder if there's some touch points, and I wonder if Robert Phoenix would flesh that out a little more. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next week.
All right.
I wonder. I wonder. I know some astrologers will follow meteors and comets and stuff, right? But Gabe, do you know of any astrologers that work in the meteor showers?
No,
Me either. Wouldn't that be fascinating?
Dude, what we have discovered is it totally takes things to the next level. Like the fact that there's a meteor shower running up the back of the Cetus constellation on the week that we do elections. And when everybody votes, this little light on the back of the Cepheus sea monster, it jumps to the head of the sea monster as though it were killing it. On the week that we vote for a hero to come and save the country. These meteor showers are just like cinematic articulations of heroic adventures. And it happens like clockwork every year.
Yeah. And that you talk about correspondence. There's an element of Thor striking down Jormungandr that can be derived from that. Or you've got Captain Ahab taking out Moby Dick.
Big time. That is a big one. Yes.
Yeah.
So basically earlier, Zaralath, just before you came on, I was having PK kind of move the stars through essentially the month of April, where there is a meteor shower that is coming on the scene. Right now, Zaralath, we're in a drought of meteor showers. We're in a time of year where there's an alarming lack of meteor showers for a prolonged period. And then right in the middle of April, around the 13th, so about a month from now, this Lyrid meteor shower arrives essentially in the belly of Hercules, and it slowly progresses towards the Lyra harp constellation, as though this character, Hercules, was reaching out to grab his instrument. And so, and then it fades away, and then the meteor shower just disappears.
On it.
Or he's taking a piss on it. Maybe the pee shower tapes are coming out.
Right. I mean, that could be, and that could be correspondent to many people know the mythos that Thor loses his hammer, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
So in that instance of losing the hammer, or it's the matter of perhaps he has thrown the hammer and it's in the process of summoning it, because if it's reaching out for it as such, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, those there you go, starting to get a little bit stronger of a run on the chart, right?
Yes.
Listen, I'll also mention on Monday the 24th, just after the weekend of our show, I got Mario Garza coming on for the first time finally.
Yeah,
right?
man.
So cool. I'm gonna have him do we're gonna have him do his northern polar symbolism conversation, and then I'm gonna go back and forth with him, throwing what I've figured out as best I can thus far about the Nordic correspondences to what's in the sky, and see how that all like adds up, because it's like hopefully it'll be really groundbreaking. I hope so. Either way, I'm gonna let Mario have his spiel on my show, and I'm really excited for it.
Excellent.
Have you gotten familiar with, and is it even a thing, like Nordic constellations?
Yeah, a little bit. Gemini is the eyes of Thiazi, for instance. There's a story where there's a Jotun named Thiazi Thiazi was just a was a king of a rivaling kingdom that was involved in this major dispute that had a whole bunch of different gods and involved with it. And then Thiazi has to be destroyed. And then when he is destroyed, Odin takes his eyes and throws them into the heavens to be his overseer, right? So Gemini is like these eyes that serve Odin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. There is the Big Dipper by itself is one way of expressing Thor's hammer. You know, in the movies, Thor spins his hammer, he gets the electromagnet running.
Yeah.
That's the same kind of principle. Jormungandr is Draco.
Yeah, buddy, totally.
Right. That one's very that one's just me intuiting it. I don't have a proper source on that because also the dippers are called the big cart and the little cart. Like a pull cart that you put like a donkey on or whatever, right? Or like a wheelbarrow kind of thing. So it kind of gave you a sense of like a clock telling time. This is when you do this kind of work, right? So that's another aspect of it. I'm fairly convinced that when you put Orion is also Thor, because Thor's got his belt as well as his bracers, so which he can wield Mjolnir, and Orion looks like a giant bracer, right? So it's the hero with his belt of power, or it's the bracer of power of that hero by itself. And what's near it? Canis Major, right? So that also could be a correspondence of Tyr and Fenris under normal circumstances where it's merely the wolf is leashed, right? And let me see, what else am I?
Yeah, the Stellarium doesn't have, like, it's got a Norse, but there's like nothing in it. It's kind of disappointing.
Say again?
In Stellarium, you can choose your sky culture, and you could go to like Chinese or
right.
Indian, and it has a Norse one, but there's nothing loaded in it. So it kind of sucks.
Right. This is it's lost, right? This is these are pockets of things. Half the things I said just now were things that I've intuited looking at it as best I can, drawing context, my knowledge of comparative mythology. So I'm not putting that out there as absolute claims, with the exceptions of the ones that are known as absolute claims. I know that the eyes of Thiazi are definitely Gemini, and I know that the Big and Little Dipper are also, it's like the man's cart and the woman's cart is the idea. Right?
Yeah. I like that about the brace
I see
too.
man's chariot, woman's chariot. Yeah, that's the the Big Dipper, Little Dipper. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Just right. And
what's the wolf?
And Ursa Major and Minor also, that's also as a whole, that's the I think that's also another form of Fenris, right? Because I think that they didn't keep these constellations as strictly fixed, or at least it's interesting because it's the tribalism. It's the fact that we didn't have writing until the Christians came along, because of the way we chose to develop, where writing was the mystery of the runes. And that was about the most we had for literacy. And that was like the elites and the shamans. And that was like it. Right. So like all of this is a rediscovery. And I find some of the best ways to go about it is to keep learning from people that are, practicing and studying seriously their ancestors in Northern Europe, and listening to them and listening to that wisdom and finding some level of consensus to have a coherent conversation.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't really call Norse people sexist if they actually had a women's cart in the sky.
Right?
I don't think that was a specific claim, and I don't think that rules anything out either. But okay.
The ladies' cart.
Is the Hyades a constellation?
The Hyades resemble a wolf's Ulfr's.
Oh, okay. It is. It is.
Does it say what it is in our system? I see a
think
mention of Garm in the
Yeah.
message here. Let's see, wolf.
It's Taurus.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much right on Orion, right?
It looks like Taurus.
Oh no, it's okay. It's next to him. Okay, yeah.
It's close. Yeah. Close to Aldebaran, right below it.
Okay.
I guess that's the mouth of the wolf. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so the mouth of the wolf, and then what's
It's
above the maw?
Taurus.
What's above the maw of that wolf?
Above what?
So you got the maw, right? It's going out like it's facing up in the sky like that. So
Mhm.
what's he trying to bite? What's he trying to bite if that's the mouth
That's
of the wolf?
Good question. I don't know what else is there. It all this has is Ariga,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went over Big Little Dipper.
The
Orion's
ASR
belt.
battlefield, right? Because I think
Mm.
isn't Ariga, I think, is like the square. I think that's like the square in the sky, Ariga, which is why it's the
No,
battlefield.
he's
Ariga, I think you might be thinking of
so Ariga is a pentagram, and
right. Here's Ariga, actually right next to interesting. Right next to the wolf, right next to Taurus
Yeah, gotcha.
mhm.
is Ariga. But the square, I think you're thinking of
Pegasus.
Pegasus. That's what I wanted. Pegasus.
Yeah, there's Pegasus. But I'm trying. But
Yeah.
Okay, so the square. If the square is Pegasus, then it's not what I'm thinking of, because I could have. I know about that battlefield, and maybe it's not a square, but
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, no, I don't know. Okay, I remember that there was some stuff going on a few years ago when Mars was passing near that, and some stuff was going on, and Mars was extra bright red. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure there.
It's interesting. The fisherman is Orion. Is that what you put with Orion?
No, I said that Orion is Thor largely. Yeah. Perseus is also a kind of thing. Oh, is that the battlefield right there?
Yeah.
Yeah. This shape.
Okay.
Yeah. Which they're putting that though right next to the wolf, the wolf's mouth. In Taurus.
It's interesting.
Basically.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the Ariga pentagram is actually inside of is inside of what they call the winter hexagram, which is much larger, which I think includes Taurus. But yeah, there are a great number of geometric forms all in this spring window of the year because of the square, the Pegasus square as well.
Yeah, I love how they call it the winter hexagram because it's where the sun is on the summer solstice, which means in the winter, this is where the, full moon will be at the height of the winter.
Yeah.
Will be in this area. Yeah.
Oh, a couple things I'm remembering off the top of my head already is you've got the Virgo situation. The Virgo situation has been seen often as Frigga, the cosmic mother, the all mother, Odin's wife, his wife, as opposed to Freya, who is a concubine that he wins in that war as part of the peace treaty.
Right.
Right. But we also have uh, the Northern Cross, Cygnus,
Mhm.
right? So Cygnus travels the Milky Way.
Yeah.
Now the Milky Way is the Rainbow Bridge of Asgard. That's the Rainbow Bridge, right? That's the idea.
Right.
So with Cygnus being this thing that goes across that path, that is Freya, or in the Norse story where Loki takes Freya's cloak to turn into what was it, a hawk? It's a hawk. It's one of the birds of prey like that. I think it was
Okay.
falcon. It's the falcon feather cloak that turns the wearer into a falcon, right?
Whoa.
You know, this
Cool.
is similar to your ideas by Carlos Castaneda of meditating, so that way you put your consciousness into a bird, or your consciousness becomes like a bird and you fly around, right? So this is this makes this corresponds to those stories showing the seasonal changes as Cygnus is passing overhead, right? So it's like that. It's also like Frigga, who is akin to swans as well.
Yeah.
Cygnus
Yeah.
is supposed to be the swan. So there's the swans, because the fowl are Frigga. Birds of prey like the falcon are for Freya.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Freya's the war goddess. Frigga is not associated with war. She's a mother. She's for the hearth.
Yeah, that's those little distinguishing differences are super important. Sometimes they're not even perceivable in the text. It almost requires an image or a painting to make those, to parse out the details. Like I always point out how Artemis is a hunter, and she's generally going to have like leather straps and hunting equipment. But she wouldn't have a shield. She wouldn't, you don't go hunting for bear with a shield that is designed to counter weapons from another human being. So yeah, so many times you can actually identify their intentionality by what they're wearing or what type of weapons they're carrying with them. So here, I'm going to do just one more quick screen share. Let's see. Chunk, and chunk. And okay. And I want to share this with you, Zaralath. Have you seen the depiction of, they say that it's I think they call this, here it is, the Great Hunt. Come on. Here. Have you seen this, Zaralath?
The Great Hunt. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I was looking at the I was looking at the other thing.
Great.
Yes. The Great Hunt, made in 18 whatever, and it's got Hitler's face on Odin.
Yes. This is such a trip because it kind of makes me think that, Hitler's mustache was catered to make sure that he fulfills this artistic piece. But what drives me bonkers is also knowing that OTAN is the word NATO in reverse. These fuckers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they definitely are presuming to be the legacy keepers of the spirit of OTAN to rise again some other day. And
the Great Hunt. The Great Hunt is associated with the fall equinox, effectively. Right?
Oh, nice.
This is the time where the veil is thinned. Odin's purpose in the Great Hunt is spiritual cleanup. He's going about and he's hunting down all of the stray spirits, right? Like, say I die and I don't want to leave, right? If I don't want to leave, Odin's just like, you're fucking leaving, or Geri and Freki are going to fucking make you leave. That's what Odin's. So Odin's got his ravens, his wolves, his horse, and his fucking horde of Einherjar, and they're going across the realm, and they're picking up evil spirits and spirits that are out of place, and spirits of the dead that don't want to die, and he's cleaning them up, and he's sorting them out where they belong as the psychopomp. That's the point of the Great Hunt.
I love it. I love it. Well, one thing that I see is kind of a fingerprint. The logo for the NATO has a Latin phrase, animus in consuliendo liber, which stands for a mind unfettered by deliberation. And I that makes me think that they prefer people who don't believe in free will, people who don't even engage in their ability to deliberate.
Doesn't liber mean free?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. That's the unfettered translation, right?
Yeah, you're right though.
Yeah.
That is a good point, PK. It might translate to a mind freed from deliberation.
Well, here, like, that would be like, deliberation is this is not talking about like your mind is free or your mind's enslaved. It's about like, are you too busy thinking to act?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Analysis paralysis.
Odin is the frenzy. When you enter the frenzied state, you're letting your stream of consciousness guide your actions. If I'm in a fight with somebody, I'm not thinking, really. I'm in the moment, absorbing things. I'm not deliberating what his punch is. Things are happening too fast. So I need to be in a frenzy. I have to be in my nervous system. I have to be in self-control. I have to be well practiced, right? So be a deliberate mind, but be capable of unfettering that mind, right?
Yeah,
and you train yourself so that way when you're in that unfettered state, you don't accidentally go and do horrible things or something, right? I mean, it's the same thing like playing guitar. Nobody plays guitar by thinking about what the fuck they're playing. They practice until the muscle memory just does it for them.
Right. Kung Fu. Kung Fu means practice.
Yep. Yeah, that was well said.
Big love and respect, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on to the Slick Dissident Shared Artistic Expression tonight.
Indeed.
Yeah, that was good, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for coming on too, Zaralath.
Yeah. I'm a machine. Several hours live.
Big loves to the chat out there. I see Lucy Rose up. Big respect. Chris Newberry. Paula D's in the house. Big love, Paula D. I think I saw Ronan earlier, and I know Chris is probably still hanging out. Hello, World Tennis Wildlife Truth Fairy. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And keep your eyes and ears open. We'll be convening again soon. Catch us over on Zaralath's channel next week. And here in no time, we'll have a reconvening of the Shared Artistic Disdancers any day now. Big love, y'all.
No doubt. Much love, y'all.
Boom. Peace, dream.